Good morning, Dual Coast fans. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Dual Coast Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Skoga, joined by my West Coast co-host, Russ Rogers, joined by a very special guest this morning, Jennifer Clearwaters. Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us this morning. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So awesome, Jen, that you're here. This is amazing. You know, we were talking just a little bit ago about you being on a podcast with Dan Sikowski yesterday,
Yes.
aka Big Dan. And so shout out to Dan because he is the one that connected you and I.
Yes, that is true.
And so it's just
we would be a good connection, and it's so far, yes, he's been absolutely 100% right.
Yes. Because it's one of those things like whenever you meet people, you don't know, it's not like you're going to connect with every single person. Right. And I know that, Big D is very good to his word. He's got, people that are aligned and well connected and meaningful and doing, purposeful things in life, very intentional about their doing. And since you and I have spoken, it was an immediate connection.
Yes.
Immediate. And we've had phone conversations. This has just been absolutely amazing. So I just want to say thank you for not only who you are as a person, what you're doing in your therapy, what you're doing with your podcast, what you're doing with your book. And it's just like, it's just amazing. And so I just appreciate you and just a little time that I've gotten to know you. And so thank you. And thank you for being on Dual Coast.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us, just out of fun, what is the last fun thing that you've done? Let's don't dive right into like who Jen is, but
fun thing that I've done.
Let's talk. Was it a vacation?
Yesterday, I went to, or not yesterday, Sunday evening, I went to New York to go see Bon Jovi.
There you go. You go.
It was, amazing. These guys who have been playing music for over 40 years, and we're still there, just playing music and having a great time. And
what an awesome experience. Yeah. Now, did you go because you're a Bon Jovi fan, or did you go?
I'm a Bon Jovi fan, and I went with friends who are also Bon Jovi fans. It was one of my closest girlfriend's birthdays, and she was like, "Let's just go do it." And it was perfect because they started early at 7:30, no opening act, and they were done at 10 o'clock. It was good for someone like me. Perfect. And at 2 a.m, it was a great show. It was good.
Oh my goodness! Have you ever heard of Fetty Wap?
Yes.
Okay. So when he was starting to make it, he came to Santa Cruz on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And so my daughter said, "Hey, Fetty's coming to Santa Cruz on a Wednesday night." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So we got there. I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock or whatever. There was like, and I'm not joking and I'm not exaggerating, but there had to be 10 other artists who played before him.
Yeah. Yes.
Let me remind you, this is a Wednesday night. You know what next day is, right? It's a work day.
Yeah.
And so we got up that night. He came on at like 11:30 p.m. And he sang for like 50 straight minutes, like nothing in between, no talking. We got out of there at 12:30 a.m., got home, and I was like, oh my goodness. So the fact that you got Bon Jovi right out of the gate, that's
yes,
amazing.
And I think that they planned that because they know, if Bon Jovi, it's been in the news. He had throat surgery and had something with his vocal cord, so he wasn't really sure if he could even speak again, let alone sing.
Yep.
So I think he's got a ton of shows at Madison Square Garden. So I'm sure it's like he can't go sing for 4 hours every night.
Sure.
But on a Sunday evening, I did appreciate being done at 10 o'clock.
with clients at
showing
9.
my age a little bit, but that's okay. So yes, that was the last fun thing that I did.
That's
and yesterday,
awesome.
actually being on Dan's podcast was a lot of fun. Dan and Anthony are great hosts, and it was a really fun experience.
Sure. That's so cool. Yeah, give us one highlight from yesterday's conversation.
We talked a lot about actually the subject of sleep. And it just kind of came up because Anthony had said, I don't sleep much and I don't have trouble with sleeping. And that really came up as a big component of mental health, is that a lot of people aren't sleeping and they just figure like, well, whatever, I don't need it, or I haven't slept well in years. And I hear it a lot in private practice. Sleep is definitely a topic that we talk about. And Dan and I were both very clear that like, if you don't sleep well, all of your other functioning is going to be compromised. Yeah. So that was an interesting topic that we talked about for a while.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yep.
Great topic. What do you think the reason is there, Jen? What do you think the reason people are not sleeping much?
Well, a lot of it's technology. So, a lot of people are watching, or well, really, a lot of people are scrolling on their phone before they go to bed or watching TV. Sometimes people sleep with the television on, and your brain has that all it's all going still. So if you shut, a lot of people say, well, I shut the lights off and then I can't fall asleep. It's really because like your brain is still replaying everything that you were just doing. So that's one. I mean, I think lack of self-care is another. A lot of people are in straight burnout mode. So they're working. And then you get home and you're exhausted. You can't do anything. And then you become like what you hear that term, tired and wired. So you're exhausted, but your brain is so stimulated that you can't fall asleep. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of overthinking. We talked about that a lot too. Your worry list, your to-do list. Oh my gosh, I have to do this, and this. It keeps you up at 3 a.m. So there's a lot of techniques that we were talking about yesterday that you can do to make your nighttime routine a little bit smoother. Awesome. So I don't know if either of you struggle with sleep.
Do not struggle.
Sometimes I'm the overthinking person though. I'm the overthinking person, so I'm always up at night. Sometimes just like running my mind a little bit, and then can't relax. That happens to me all the time. Mm-hmm. Also, getting out of work, I get out of work late from the hospital, so sometimes I'm a little bit wired from that, and then trying to just relax myself after that takes me a while sometimes.
Yeah, that's hard. So if you work in the hospital environment, I'm sure you're up you're in fight or flight mode probably all the time for your entire shift.
Exactly. So I leave the hospital at 8 p.m. After that, it's kind of hard to turn it off and go to sleep at 10:30 because I only have a 2-hour gap between really leaving and sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that a lot from the medical professionals that I work with in therapy. It's hard, and they don't have time to process what they're doing sometimes, especially if you're I don't know if you're in the ER, but a lot of the ER workers, every room is so different that they don't have time to process. They just move on, and then they get home and they're like, oh, I have to think about what just happened in my day, and I only have a couple hours because I have to go to bed and get up and do the next day.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I can have a cup of coffee at 11:30 p.m. and go right to sleep.
Oh, you're lucky, not me.
I have that.
People differently.
Yeah. Not long ago, I was with my daughter and we were hanging out with kids late, and I was like, I got home and it was late. I actually crawled into bed and I was like, you know what? I haven't had my cup of coffee today or tonight. So I got up and I just laid in bed, drank half a cup of coffee and went right to sleep.
You're lucky. No, I'm done after 2 p.m. That's it.
Yeah, most people are that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most people are that way. So Jen, let's dive in and let's talk about you. Okay. Let's talk about who Jen Clearwaters is, and let's just talk about the dynamic of people that are in need of therapy. Okay. So we've got sleep issues and stuff like that, but we're going into therapy because mental illness is a huge problem. And why do you think we got there right now in this stage of life with mental illness? Because to me, it's like at a higher level than ever before. And so let's talk about addressing that as to why we are in society where we are today in the United States.
Well, I feel like there's always been issues, but now, thankfully, I think, getting help for your mental health and wellness is much more acceptable, as opposed to maybe like when I was growing up or when our parents were growing up. There really wasn't. If you had an issue, you kept it. Don't talk outside the family. And even if you did really have an issue, there really wasn't much to help you. Not many resources. So I do find that younger people, like the younger generation, they want to talk about things. So they're much more ready to get out and go to therapy. And then look at the modalities you even have. Not that I agree with them all, but there's even things like BetterHelp where you don't have to come face to face, which I really think was born out of COVID. Prior to COVID, telehealth and telemedicine really was not a thing. Definitely for us as mental health professionals, that wasn't a thing for us until after COVID. Right. And now it's a wonderful thing. If you can't make your appointment, you can do it virtually, which has been very helpful, so people aren't skipping therapy really at all because there's always a way you can do it. Yeah. You can have a phone conversation. And then even some of the modalities you can be texting back and forth. You don't even have to be on a screen. So it's definitely more widely available. But I do think COVID obviously did a number on people by keeping everyone isolated, and then when we went back to opening up the doors and people were able to be reintroduced to one another, a lot of people didn't really know how to do that or what to do. So there's been a big disconnect with like you're isolated, which is not good for humans in general. And now you have to go back and be with people after not being with people. So it's hard. Technology and social media has also contributed to a lot of, self-esteem issues and mental health issues in general. Politics, the news. There's actually been many studies on people that watch the news. Remember, like most of the news, not all of it, most of it is not great stuff. Yeah. So actually, when Cindy and I were writing our book, we put in a 24-hour challenge because, a lot of times people always say, I can't do certain things because I don't have time, including going to therapy. I have heard that too. Don't have time. But we always said, like, look at what you're doing for a 24-hour period, and you'll see where the time is actually going. And when we were researching that, we did it for like a week or two at a time. And one of the things that I really noticed was that I would come home from work and like put the 6 or 6:30 news on and just listen. And at that time, every night that I came home was like a school shooting or somebody getting shot walking home from doing their wash, or it was all negative stuff. And actually after a couple of days, I was like, all right, I'm turning that off and I'm going to go like sit outside for that time instead. And it made a big difference. So now there's actually clinical studies that are showing like rates of anxiety and depression go up if you're, watching the news constantly, because there is a lot of fear-based material that comes out in that. So I think there's lots of things, and people are, like you said, I work with a lot of medical people. They're overworked. There's a lot of burnout, the education system, the teachers, a lot of burnout, maybe not now so much because it's summer, but I think people are exhausted. And that they're just seeking a way to make things a little bit better and a little bit lighter. And I think that's why, and I've also heard that it's very hard. It was definitely hard during COVID. People would call and say, I've called like 10 therapists. No one calls back, or no one has appointments available. I can't get in for like 3 months, and that's hard. College kids, same thing. Every college has psychological services where you can go and get appointments, but I would have people calling and saying like, I've gone over and asked for appointments and I can't get in, or I'm going to be with one therapist this week and someone else this week, because there just aren't, there was really not enough professionals for all the people who were asking for help. It's not a great thing, but again, on a positive note, I do think the younger generations are being more proactive. Like they're noticing an issue and they're saying like, hey, I need some help, which is good.
Yeah, that is good. We talked about last week, Dan and I did a little tribute at the beginning, like for 4 or 5 minutes or whatever, talking about the World Cup, talking about the United States, America being 250th birthday, that kind of thing. One of the things that, that hasn't happened in the media, and I don't watch the news per se. I'll maybe see something, on my phone and maybe read something here or there, but I don't watch news on my television. The thing about it is like when I look at all that's happening, like with the World Cup and everything, it's bringing people together.
It's been wonderful.
Hasn't it?
Wonderful. Yeah.
And it's like, isn't this what life is supposed to be like? Right?
It's been a beautiful. I was able to go with both of my children play soccer. Actually, both of my children were born during World Cups, so we had to go. and we went to a game.
Something about that ball.
It really was beautiful. And really, like my older son plays soccer in college, and my husband never played. I played 1 year. I'm not good at soccer, so we definitely didn't come from us. Just an innate skill that both my children have. But the World Cup was such a beautiful event. Even if you haven't been able to be there in person, it's making everyone happy. And we were in the stands sitting behind people who didn't even know what soccer was. Like they were like, what is a yellow card? What does it mean if this happens? No one cared. It was so fun. It was beautiful. Even just watching how the players all walk out together. And it was just such a beautiful expression of just peace and being together and joyful events of the world. And I think that's exactly what people need.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So when you're talking about, being locked away, from COVID and then having an event like this, it's just absolutely amazing.
It's been a nice summer so far with really positive events.
Yeah. It's amazing. Amazing. You brought up an interesting point too, Jen, about social media, because I feel like we're in and all three of us are guilty of using social media.
Yep.
But I feel like we're in an age of comparison. People compare themselves to everybody on social media, especially the younger generation, I think is impressionable to that more so than, the older generation, I guess I would say, that they see like, oh, this person, they're doing great. They're doing this. They have this podcast. They have that. And like, we're just in an age of comparison where they look at other people, their age categories, and they're saying, how are they doing this? How do they have this? And I feel like that's kind of a theft a little bit on them. What do you think about that?
100%. I mean, a lot of times when people come in with issues, whatever their presenting symptoms are, that's often what I ask them is, who are you following? And what are you looking at on social media? Because, if you were talking about something like an eating disorder or self-confidence, oftentimes people will show me their feeds are all about diet culture, working out, people who are eating 200 calories a day and look beautiful, right? It's all stuff that's not real, and a lot of times I'll also go back and say, like, who are you following? And do you even know these people?
Right.
What is the reason why you're following them, and what is the message that you're getting from the content that they're putting out? So it really does, if you're kind of struggling with who you are and your self-confidence, and you're watching all these other people on social media that are going to make you feel worse because they're doing this and you're not, it's really hard. It's really hard. So that is one of the things that I really do work with patients, is that it basically turn it off. And you can't take it too seriously. Like I even say for me, like, what am I doing on social media? Why, why am I on there? You have to just take it doesn't have to be so seriously. You take it with a grain of salt and move on too. I tell people, if you're seeing these posts that come up and you don't want to be involved with it, just scroll past it. Don't look at it. And I also think taking a break from the phone, we always say, we blame it a lot on kids with the phones, but the adults are just as bad.
100%.
So I really had people have a hard time saying that they can't put the phone down.
Yeah.
And my generation grew up with not having the internet and a cell phone. And I also have a job where my phone is off all day long. If someone's in my office, I'm not on my phone. So it's not as hard for me, but it's really a test for people to say, like, put your phone somewhere else. Talking about Russ, this is why, like, Russ's books were the perfect thing for me to add to my office collection. It's like his books are all about getting out in nature and unplugging and doing things with your family and with other people. And what I really loved about it was, like, go outside, go for a hike. If you don't know where to go, here's 10 places to go. So you couldn't have made it any easier, but that message of unplugging and getting back into nature and getting back into community with people is exactly what we need right now.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
absolutely true. Because if you go into any public setting, everybody's buried in their phone, no matter what.
Look around, right? Look around what they're doing.
From 12 to 65, 70 years old, somebody's buried in their phone. Anybody standing in line waiting for a cup of coffee, they're scrolling on their phone. Sitting at the table having the coffee, they're scrolling on their phone.
Waiting in the doctor's office or waiting anywhere. Even when I went to the concert the other night, I was waiting for the train and I had a book and everyone else had their phone.
One thing I always laugh about at the concerts now too is nobody really engages with the concert as much because they're filming the concert on their phone.
Yes. That too.
They're in the video mode on their phone, so they're looking through their phone as they're watching the concert for half the concert.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah.
Amazing. So, we talked off air about our podcast and stuff. And how did you start your podcast? How did you guys make that connection? What was it inside of you? Because you're already busy, with your life as it is, as a therapist, right? And a wife and mother and, all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, we need to start a podcast. Tell us the story of how that originated.
Yeah. And as you know, from having one, there's a lot of work that goes into having a podcast. So it's not just like, oh, let's just do it. Cindy and I wrote our book, and then, and our book is based on, a collaboration of all the work that we had done together as college professors. And we both have, backgrounds in public education. And our book is really all the tips of the tools that we use for stress reduction and mental health and wellness, little bits at a time. So we put the book out, and then we were thinking, like, we know a lot of people. And when I was in public education, oftentimes you would go to events or they would have speakers come in that sounded wonderful. And then you would never be able to contact them afterwards. They were either too far away, or there was funding and money involved in their services, and you couldn't get to them. And so it was like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, but I'll never see that person again, and then we can't use their services. So we were thinking that we know a lot of people doing really great work in mental health and wellness, and we really wanted to showcase other people. The podcast was never about us. So we don't really ever talk about ourselves on the podcast. So we wanted to showcase people who are doing great things in mental health and wellness that were accessible. So if you needed their services, you could actually contact them, or, even if they're not right here present, but we did really start with local people, because we wanted people to say, like, if you need someone in the grief space, or you need someone to talk about suicide prevention, or you need someone who can help you with acupuncture or sound healing, here are these great people that we know that are doing really good things. So that's how we started it. And it's been a lot of fun since then. Someone actually asked if, how's the podcast going? And Cindy and I said, every time that we do one, we leave and we go, that was exactly what I needed today. So I really do enjoy it. It's fun. We've had a lot of wonderful people on.
Yeah. You do your show weekly?
We come in, we do 2 episodes a month. Okay. And because, like I said, we are, a little technology challenged, the both of us. We do have a wonderful studio that does basically everything for us. So we'll go in, we meet with our guests and film, and then the studio and the crew there, who are amazing, will do the clips and the video and put it out for us and schedule.
That's wonderful.
So it's been very helpful. And the reason where we found that, like I told you before, we were going to try to film it ourselves in my office, and we bought equipment, and then we were like, we do not know what we're doing. And we actually were guesting someone's podcast at the studio where we film now. And we went in and we went on her show, and then we were like, what are we doing? Like, look at this place. We don't have to do anything. So it works. But the podcast is a really lovely thing, and there's some really beautiful people who have come on the show.
So, that's amazing.
I always say it to Russ. It's funny how you think it'd be very hard to get guests on the show, but a lot of people are very willing to come on and tell their story.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
I always found that interesting, because me and him talk about this all the time. I'm like, they're not going to want to come on. And sure as oh yeah, no problem.
I mean, we had a few that said to us, like they were like, why do you want me? Why do you want me?
No,
like,
it's true.
Like, I'm not sure what I would say. And we're like, we promise you, we'll get you to say something.
Yeah, we'll coach that part. Yeah. I always find that interesting. People are like, oh yeah, I'd love to. I'm like, wow, like, surprised.
Yeah.
Like, people like it.
Yeah. And now, honestly, now that it's been a while, I think we're like 45 episodes in, which is very small in comparison to people who've been out for years and years. But some of our guests now have been, really out in the public eye. Like, we just finished doing a series of 3 of the instructors from Peloton, and people were like, how did you get them to come? And I said, I just asked. I asked them.
Yeah.
And
the answer is always no if you don't.
Ask, right. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. And there have been some people where I put out, invites to, and we never heard back. And that's okay. That's okay. But, a lot of, like, we had a doctor, a former Harvard professor who was, a master in his field. And I remember Cindy saying, like, email him. She's like, he probably won't answer you, but, like, just do it anyway. So I did. And he was like, sure, I'll do it. And he showed up, and he was like, you took a chance. He doesn't know us. He arrived at the studio, and he said to us, it's like, he goes, all these things in life are like little dots. And he said, you want to connect the dots. And he said, and I got this invite, and I figured, like, this is a dot I want to connect. And it's such a great episode with him. So people just take a chance when it feels right.
Love that.
Yeah.
Can we put a big title like that in front of my name next week?
Yes. We're connecting the dots.
It's definitely not going to say Harvard professor.
Well, he's a former Harvard professor.
Ross is not going to say former Harvard professor.
I'm not. Yes. I can't even put former in there.
Yeah, Dr. Srini Pillay. So if you look him up, he's everywhere. He couldn't have been more lovely. But that's why. And even the instructors from Peloton, they didn't know us, and they took 2 of them actually made the drive from the city and came in person, and the other one couldn't because of scheduling. But, like, they were like, sure, I'll do it. It was great. Yeah. It was nice. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, even though they're in the public eye, we were really showcasing what was your story before in an organization like that found you. And we're always amazed that, people, like one of the people that we had on was already he was already an Olympian. He was an Olympic rower prior to even being there. So it's just quite interesting, people's backstory, like, and they show us how like all their little dots connected them to where they are right now.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun.
Wow, it's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here we are connected.
That's right. And you're going to be on next week. Right.
You gonna cut your hair short?
I'm thinking,
come as you are.
I don't use Dapper Dan like you.
All right.
You gotta just come as you are.
Jen, you focus a lot on mindset
Yes.
on a lot of your podcasts and a lot of your material and everything. Was there a defining moment in your life that you said, I'm going to focus on mindset and coaching and teaching and the way you work with it? Was there something in your life that happened?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mentioned to you, I was in public education for like a whole career prior to this, over 20 years. So I started as an ESL teacher. It taught English as a second language in New York City public schools in the 90s. Wow. Which is basically like, you got hired in September, and if you were surviving in June, you will be hired back. At one of like the greatest places, like that little school was just, I worked at a school called PS 51, and it had the most incredible principal and VP and the best people that I've ever worked with. It was such a wonderful place, like such a great job. So no regrets there. But then I went from being a public school teacher to a guidance counselor to director of guidance. And then when I went up to administration, things started to change there. I was in a very chaotic school district, and basically the opposite of what my New York City job was. I worked with, really crazy district, good people and good students, good staff. Administration was really the issue. And that's what I could see. I could see that people running this district didn't like each other, and they didn't they didn't have the students' vision at heart. They really, and really, that was really hard to see, and then I really lost my connection with kids because I was doing more admin tasks. So I remember, when you're a school admin in guidance, you have mental health plus. At that time, they were giving us like all the testing, and tests are always stress provoking too. So it's kind of
absolutely
for me to be doing that. But I remember being like, at school 8, 9 o'clock at night, one night, packing up boxes of testing materials to be shipped back after a test, sitting on the floor with papers everywhere and just going like, this is not what my training is. I've gone to school for many years. I have degrees in mental health and wellness, and I'm packing testing boxes at 8 o'clock at night while I had little kids at the time. My kids are home. I was working constantly, coming in on the weekends, and I was like, this is stupid. Like, what am I doing? And I'm not even in a place that I like with people that are not good, very toxic, negative environment. I was like, forget it, I'm not doing this. So at that time, Cindy had trained in a program called Yoga Calm for Children, which was a school-based mindful and movement program built by a counselor and I think a social worker on the West Coast. And they had already implemented it in the public schools for like 10 years prior. So every time we always think like, oh, the East Coast, we're so advanced. We were way behind. Way behind. So somebody had gone out to, I think it was Minnesota, to do this training and asked to come in and do a demo in my school. And so the school where I was, I basically got like a bunch of teenage girls who had been in fights, didn't like each other, that kind of thing, and got them all together. And I had Cindy come in, and, they had their headphones on, and they were kind of looking around like, why is she here? Why is she here? I didn't tell them why they were there. And then I left Cindy and came back an hour later. And these girls who would, basically fighting each other after school had their hands in tree pose. They were all like zenned out. And I was like, oh, I'm doing this. Whatever you just did, I'm going to do this. So that's how I had the idea of, forming that idea of like, I think I'm going to leave this job that I had that was, stressful, but stable. I had a stable job. I had, I was making good money, and I had little kids at home. And I said, I think I'm going to take this training for yoga, and I'm going to start a private practice for therapy. But, that took some time. So when I said that to my husband and said, oh, I think I'm just going to quit this job and start private practice, he was like, okay, but who's going to come?
Right.
Who's going to come to your private practice that nobody knows about? And I was like, I'll figure it out. So the next school year that started in September, I said, okay, by June, I'll have a plan. So I allowed myself that whole school year to kind of figure it out. and it was a lot. Like, when you transfer from school counseling to private practice therapy, there's a big shift in the regulations in New Jersey of things that you have to do. So it did take me a while. And at that time I was also a college professor. So Cindy and I were teaching at Monmouth University in graduate counseling. So I also had a night job too. So it was a lot of work, but like, that's really when I knew, like, I know I can serve people in a better space than where I was. And it worked. By June, I was able to put my resignation in and start my practice.
Amazing.
Wow. Yeah. And how is that going since?
Great. Yeah, it's going great. So since I've been open now in private practice for 10 years already. So it's been a while. Yeah. So since then, like a few years in, I went back again to school. Like, I am a school person because I'm always feeling like I need to learn more and more. I did go back for a degree in integrative nutrition. So what I've noticed with patients coming in is that there's a big connection between food and drink and mood. And especially the way that our food system is in the United States right now. There's so many things in our food system. Even if you are really trying really hard to be organic and clean, it gets in there and it really can cause some problems and exacerbate symptoms of anxiety and depression and brain fog and all these other things that are coming in. So oftentimes when people are presenting with a symptom, I'll ask them, what's your nutrition like? And sometimes they're not even, don't even connect it. Even young people who are going out, like kids in college, where, Tuesday will come and they'll say, like, I just don't feel like myself. I feel like, I'm off, I'm anxious, or I just feel bad. And I'll say, well, what did you do over the weekend? And say, oh, well, I went out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. Okay.
Not just Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
and then
added Thursday.
And the Taco Bell at 2 a.m., sounds like a good idea at the time. And then by Tuesday, you're going, oh, how come I don't feel well?
Yeah.
So that's been very helpful for me. It was definitely worth it. So, and then in the YogaCom program, in order to advance to being a higher level participant, I had to actually become a yoga teacher. So that was a whole nother training, not like anyone wanted to just, yoga teacher training is definitely, it's expensive and it's very time consuming. So but I had to do that. So at age 45, I had to go become a yoga teacher so I could keep this certification. And then from there, I went into a Reiki training, which is also energy work. So I'm a master level Reiki practitioner. And that's what I took all of this nutrition and energy work and I infuse it into my practice as a therapist.
So,
wow. So, yeah. So, absorbing people's problems in life, it can be overwhelming. So you've got to compartmentalize, those things. And as a therapist, like, put those things aside because you got to focus on your own health. So you just mentioned, yoga and Reiki. What are some things that you do maybe in addition to those two to keep your sanity, to keep your wellness up as a human?
So I have a very good self-care practice. And that's what I say. Like, I don't teach things to people that I don't do myself because, like, people aren't stupid. They can see through that. And like, it's not genuine. So like, I'm very disciplined with self-care. I have a very scripted morning routine. So I get up around 5 o'clock every day and have my coffee. I do my journaling, I do my meditation, and then I go get my workout done. And that's a not negotiable. I do it every day. Whether I'm traveling, it doesn't matter. That's how I start my day. Because for me, I am a morning person. So by 8 p.m., like when you're leaving the hospital, like I do not have the energy. So I know I won't do it, but there are some people who really try and they try to get up at 5 a.m., but like, that's just not how they're wired.
Sure.
So you have to really know yourself and know like when you feel like you have the most energy, but that the morning is also a time before anybody can get to me and before life can happen. So I can really start my day on a positive note. So I'm really good with that. I was an athlete my whole life. I played, volleyball and basketball. I was a competitive swimmer, and now I'm a marathon runner. So I keep up with all of my movement because movement is definitely medicine for the body. Sure. So those are things. I love to be outside. This is the best time of the year at the Jersey Shore. We can actually be outside and get to the beach. So I really do love spending time outside too. It's like another non-negotiable for me. So, and I'm really good with, I have good boundaries after work. I drive home. I don't listen to anything. Like it's calm. I'm not on my phone. I don't answer calls. I don't go back on the computer. And I really do have like a good nighttime routine to wind down and get rid of the day and try to be really present once I get home with my family. So it's and is it perfect? No. And there are times when, it is stressful, or like, I have a patient that, something does happen, and we do have mental health crisis. That's just what in our field, sometimes that happens. But for the most part, I have learned over the years to just, leave work at work, because it will be here the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How oftentimes do we just allow things to penetrate that non-negotiable and get us off of our routine?
Oh yeah, it would be easy to do. Like, and you know what?
Yeah.
You're going to cancel something for yourself first. That's how it goes.
Right.
But if you are disciplined enough to say, like, I need to, like, everything starts with us. So if you are not going to be good for yourself, how are you going to be good for all the other things that you're doing for other people during the day?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the piece that you just need to come back to. Like, if you have to be good first, and then everything else you do will be just as good. But if you're already starting from an empty cup, or, no cup at all, like, it's not going to be a good outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting.
So,
Interesting. Amazing. Jen, I want to touch on the nutritional aspect real quick also.
okay.
You're saying that gut health can affect mental health. So what you ingest can affect your mental health or your well-being in that standpoint. Do you think that it has the opposite effect too? Do you think chronic stress can affect your gut?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Chronic stress, if your stress doesn't go out, it stays in the body. So, and not that necessarily it will be the cause, but it will exacerbate. Like, I think it's something like 80% of conditions can be made worse if you're under chronic stress. So I like to teach people how to use their body to heal their mind. So, like if we're talking nutrition, this is like brain one, your gut is brain two, and they talk to each other all day long. But if you can use your body, if your mind is filled with stuff all the time, and like, you don't even want to go in there to try to attack the thoughts, because it's just like swirling in chaos. So if you can first calm your body down, then your brain will also, and your mind will calm down enough where then you can address what's going on. But, nutrition is definitely like your mind and your gut are 100% connected. So, but like, if you, and this is what it usually happens with people too, is that they'll take techniques and they'll do them. And then as soon as they start feeling better, they'll stop them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're all guilty of that, right? Because it happens. So, like, oh, I'm better, I don't need it. Just like if you were to be given a medication from the doctor, you take it, you feel better, you're like, all right, I'm good. That's it. But like, I want people to incorporate practices as an everyday, so that it becomes preventative medicine. So when your nervous system starts to, ignite, exactly what to do to bring it back down.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I got to give you, major props on being an author. It's a big accomplishment.
And I'm like, we're an author, but yeah, our book is really a labor of love.
Yeah. So that is a major accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, we were talking to Joey, who's in the process of becoming a first-time author.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me reflect on my work, right? As what it takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to applaud you for your efforts in completing that and doing that.
Thank you.
The inspiration behind it. Can you give us a little insight of what inspired you to follow through on creating this book?
Yeah. So again, Cindy O'Connell and I have been working together for a really long time, and we have very similar backgrounds. And so I was thinking, at that time we were both teaching at Monmouth University as professors, and I was thinking, like, okay, well, we know a lot of stuff. We've been, prior to that, we had been teaching workshops. That's the other piece of what we do. We do a lot of corporate wellness. So we've been teaching workshops, and we've been all over the place. And I was just thinking, like, we have a lot of material together. So it was like January 1st. And I called her and said, like, oh, hey, like, Happy New Year. And I said, we're going to write a book. And she was like, okay, like, what are we going to write? Didn't hesitate, but just was like, all right. So I said, at first we thought, well, maybe we have material to write a course. We'll write a class for Monmouth or something. But then we were like, we have a lot more than just a course. So it's like, we're going to write a book. We don't know how to do this. We're not, we don't know what we're doing. And the first thing I told her is, I said, you have to start telling people. You have to say it out loud. And she was like, that seems strange. Like, I'm going to say, like, oh, hi, I'm writing a book. What are you writing a book about? I don't know. I said, start telling people, because then you make it real. But then we actually schedule. So it took us a year and a half to write our book. But we would write and get ideas. And then we would meet every Wednesday. Like we would joke, it's Wellness Wednesdays. And so for every Wednesday from like 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we blocked out time. She would come here and we would put things together. And we would literally come and say, okay, I wrote this like 2 weeks ago. We'd read it and go, my God, that's awful. Like, don't put that in. That sounds terrible. So, and that took about 1.5 years to really put together what we wanted, and we changed it as you always do when you're writing. Like you think you want one thing and then something else, it turns into something else. And then I had a friend, another very close friend owns a writing company, and we sent it to her so that she could edit. And it was great because when you have someone with fresh eyes that look at it, like she would put back, because she's not in the space of mental health and wellness, would say like, revise this. No one knows who you're talking about. Nobody knows this person. Nobody knows this concept. It doesn't make sense. And so we had to refine through the editing process, which was great for us. And then she turned it into an actual manuscript, which was amazing. So it was a lot of work though, and like when you're writing something, you never know. Like, I think, most people are writing first for yourself. Like, I think Cindy and I were like, we'll write it. Who knows? Probably nobody will read it. It's fine. And then after a while, you're like, okay, I think what I have in here will actually help people. So, once we put it out and it was out for a while, there were people that said, oh, well, is there an audiobook version? Because, people don't read these days.
Right.
And in the way that our book is, that we have, there's teaching parts in every topic, in every chapter, and then there's a reflection space. So it's almost like a wellness workbook, because journaling is a scientific practice for stopping the overthinking. So, Dan, if you're an overthinker, journaling is definitely helpful. And so we were like, well, our book is not really an audio book. It's really, because we need the practice, but people were saying like, oh, I really prefer to have an audiobook version of it. So we went back to our studio where we do our podcast, and we did record an audiobook version. And instead of using, professional narrators, we were like, you know what, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. Like, we're going to read this book. So that's what we did after, I think, 1 year it was out, and then we went back and did the audiobook version.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I applaud your effort.
Yeah. It was a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Trying to, create a book. It is a lot of work, but it was worth it. I think you'll say the same thing. Like, we're proud of what we put out.
That's a good feeling, right?
Like, there are some people who aren't going to read it, and that was one of the things, like, even like friends and family, like they, sometimes friends and family didn't read it. They didn't read the book.
Exactly.
Didn't listen to our audio book. They don't really care.
No, they don't.
And that's okay. Because the right people will always find your work if they need it.
Yes. I'm reading your book, Bob.
Yeah. And I've read all of yours too. But really, there were some people, when the audiobook did come out, the publisher will give you links and said like, oh, you have, 10 or 15 links, send them all out to friends and family. And I remember Cindy going like, we're not sending these to our family. Like, our family didn't even read the book. So we were like, okay, you're right. We're going to send them out to our podcast guests. And that's what we did.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, you say that people don't read, but I just want people to be reminded of the fact that Jen does read on her way to Bon Jovi concert.
That's what I do. But that, and not saying like, I really just prefer to have like a real book, like I've never really gotten into like doing the Kindle or reading on a screen. Like, I just like a book. So that's just my personal.
I'm the same.
That's all.
Yeah, I agree. I have been doing the audiobooks a little bit though in the car. I have.
Yes, because if you're
Makes
using
sense.
them, they're wonderful, and they do work for lots of people. So whatever works for you, it's great.
I agree. Yeah. Well, this has been an amazing podcast, Jen. Thank you so much for coming on. Incredible time right here. Super informational. I'll ask you one more quick last question, and then we'll wrap this up. So we have one statement or a quote that we finish up every Dual Coast episode with, and that statement is, "Wellness is not about perfection; it's about progress." Can you tell me what that statement means to you?
Oh, it means just that, right? Like, so like I said, everything starts with us. So I think self-awareness is the first step. It's actually the first thing that we talk about in our book. And for you, if you don't recognize that there are things to work on, you can't work on it. But once you do that, then you're never going to get from point A to point B in one day, which is what we're conditioned to, right? With social media and the way things are right now, like you press a button, you get a result. but when you're working on yourself, it doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take the time and you have to be patient. And I tell everybody to go into mental health and wellness with a beginner's mind. Like, forget what you think you know, forget what you learn on the internet, and you just have to take it one step at a time and be willing to commit to be present to working on yourself. Because it's progress. And, nothing's going to be perfect, but, if you're consistent and persistent, you're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Very well said.
Jen, thank you so much for coming on to Dual Coast
Yes,
today.
thank
I know
you
you
so
got to
much
get off.
for me.
You got to get off to work and
Yes.
get your day going. And so thank you for starting your day out with us, or part of your morning of your non-negotiables, and coming on to Dual Coast today, because your heart is beautiful and what you say, and your life that you lead is just amazing. Your book, your podcast, your therapy work, everything about it, and you can see it come out in this conversation. So we really appreciate you sharing your insight
Thank you
about
so
life
much.
today.
Thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it. What a gift to be on your show.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
on.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? Real quick?
So I have a website, mindsetnj.com. And then I have an Instagram for the podcast, which is called Mindset Connection. And my other Instagram account is Mindset Jen. And that they both have information and about things that I do. The website has links to everything, the podcast and the book. And then I also have a LinkedIn page, which is my name, Jennifer Clearwaters. So you can find me there.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jen.
All right. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure this morning. Yeah. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Jennifer.
Talk soon.
Sounds good. Everybody, thank you so much for being on today. Everybody, thank you so much for listening today to Dual Coast Podcast. Jennifer was an amazing guest. Please check us out at Dual Coast Podcast on all social media handles. Check us out on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Please check out Jennifer on all her social media links and her podcast as well. We thank everybody so much for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Awesome.